Hello, everyone. This is Andre's Restart. I am joined by my good friend Brandon, and tonight, as usual, we are talking about Nintendo. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Doing good. Ready to get into it.
Yeah, it has been a pretty hectic week.
Hmm.
For me, just there's a lot going on. In terms of Nintendo things, let's see. We have the Game Awards happening
Yeah,
next week, which that's
has
that's
potential.
that. Oh, I said next week, this week, like in 2 days. Today's
Yeah,
Tuesday. It's
yeah.
happening on
It'll be this week.
Thursday, um, and there's always a Nintendo something usually. It may not be the biggest thing ever, but it might be. It might be something cool, right? So we'll probably dive a little bit more into that. There are some insiders that are hyping up the event, not necessarily for Nintendo, I should note.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I feel like last year I wasn't really feeling it. This year I kind of am. I think we're getting something, but that's just what I think. I don't
Yeah,
know.
gut feeling. I feel like we're gonna get at least something.
Yeah. And so we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about this the series of like accessory leaks for the Switch 2. Like the biggest one being the Satisfy the Zen Grip 2.
Yes.
Their video was taken down, or they took it down for whatever reason, but it had like an obscured, blurred image of their peripheral, their accessory, and it had like what looked like the Switch 2 inside of it, but it was
Right.
obscured. Now we took a closer look at it, and I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what it is. So I don't think it's necessarily like the final look at the Switch 2.
Right.
But I do think I think there's something to it. So, we'll be discussing that as well. There is another interesting thing that I want to talk about today. There's a couple things actually. But one that I saw, I haven't made a video on this yet. I might, I'm not sure. But there is apparently an ex Metroid Prime 3 developer that doesn't like the way Nintendo operates, and what they talk about, I'm not sure I agree. So we'll kind of go over an excerpt there and share our opinions on that. And maybe I'll talk a little bit
Oh.
about Mario and Luigi, because they did put out
Hmm.
the developer asks interview, and there was some interesting things said there. Like they weren't even
Okay.
sure that they were going to make another game for a little bit. So yeah, I think that's worthy of some discussion as well. And
Yeah.
it feels like while we are in the thick of December, right? The Game
Hmm. Yeah.
Awards in 2 days. If we're gonna get any sort of substantial Nintendo news, it's gonna be this week, and if not, we're waiting until January. Like they might talk about Donkey Kong, but that's kind of it. If we don't get something this week, I would say.
Right.
Yeah. But how do you feel, Brandon? What have you been up to lately?
Just in general.
Sure. Why not?
Just working life. Stuff.
That's
Uh.
exciting. I feel like both of us sound so enthused right now. For me, it's been just kind of like a lot that's been going on.
Yeah. Same.
I as I discussed last week, I am trying to do this ramp up of different exercises. But I also got like some injuries I'm trying to like get right as well. So it's like this balancing act. But also that today it's not even, I didn't have time to do any workouts, right? So in the morning I had to take my grandma somewhere. They want to, when I say they, I mean my father and aunts want to put her into a home. They think she's at that point. Um, and so there's like drama of that and selling the house. And so I had to take her there. Then I took her to the daycare. Normally I don't do these things. There's like a service, but it was extenuating circumstances. So I had all that still to make today's video. But then there was multiple brand things going on in the background that I had to deal with, and then some sort of web seminar thing for alternative work I had to attend, and here we are. We're doing the live stream. So it's just been like
Yeah.
different things I've had to deal with throughout the day.
Been out doing
Yeah.
a lot of work in the past few days, really, really late. Like out to like 4 or 5 a.m. I do Uber Eats deliveries for people who don't know. So I usually set my own schedule, which is usually not that late. But I don't usually go out Mondays, or I'll go out again tonight. I don't usually go out today because it's like not good hours unless you go out really late. But I was telling Andres before we started the podcast, I've been sick since like a little bit after Thanksgiving, like the day after Thanksgiving, on and off. So like there's been days where I just like would be really good to go out, but nope, can't do that. So I'm having to make it up now. So that's why I've been kind of just really busy doing that.
I just recovered from my own sickness about a
Yeah,
week or
you
so
did.
ago, but I'm good now. I'm 100% in that regard, at least.
Yeah, I'm not sick anymore, thankfully. For the past like 2 or 3 days, I've been feeling pretty good.
That's good, Brandon. Make sure to stay hydrated.
Yeah, I got my water right here.
There is something else that it just kind of dawned on me, right? Like I kind of explain all these things going on because I guess I'm starting to live stream, not having all my thoughts together. But there is something else that has occurred over the last few days. It's kind of a big deal. Well, I mean, we've had more updates on the Switch 2 release date situation, and also we have a rumor about a couple rumors about some more remasters coming out as well. So like it's kind of all coming back to me. We've actually had like in terms of like the rumor leak discussion territory, there's been kind of a lot. So for those that haven't heard, apparently Kirby Planet Robobot is coming to Nintendo Switch next year in the first half, as well as the long-awaited, long-rumored Fire Emblem: The Genealogy of the Holy War remake. And so if this is true, and we'll dive a little bit more into who said it and what later, but if this is true, we're looking at a lineup of Donkey Kong in January. If we're to believe these rumors, we're also likely going to believe that, well, if some of it's coming from Samus Hunter, although it's like somewhat corroborated by Nate the Hate, which is interesting. We'll talk about like how these things are connected and whatnot, but the thinking is Donkey Kong, then Metroid Prime 2, maybe Metroid Prime 3, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Kirby Planet Robot, and then the Fire Emblem remake. Like that could be like the lineup of remasters and remakes from Nintendo to kind of close out the Switch before Switch 2 comes out in apparently the late May to July window. So yeah, there's just honestly there's a lot to talk about today. Yeah. And it's just kind of like coming back to me now. That's how like distracted I am. But anyways, let's get to the chat. Let's see what everyone's doing. We'll just go through question by question, and we're just gonna talk. We're just gonna chat. For those who are listening, if you could let me know how things are looking and sounding, I'd very much appreciate that. Checking here, I see. Oh, we have some super chats and things to bring up. Super Gaming has joined as a YouTube member. Welcome. Yeah. Boo Mini has gifted a membership. Boo Mini, the MVP of gifting memberships. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Anthony Nelson has been awarded this membership. Having Hope has been a member for 22 months, has a message here. Do you think we will see anything Prime 4 Beyond at the Game Awards? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So, all right. I feel like I've kind of made multiple videos on this topic, so, you know, forgive me if I'm like beating a dead horse with my thoughts here, right? But
I mean, clearly some people
believe
still don't know since they're asking.
Yeah. I think yes, we're gonna see Metroid Prime 4 in 2 days. I don't know, right? No one's told me anything. I just
no
think
leaks or inside information.
There's no leaks saying that it's gonna happen. There's no inside source telling me that it's gonna happen. It's just purely my speculation. And so like I could be wrong, and I'm not even saying I'm 100% on this. But fact of the matter is, I think it's a fairly safe bet to say there will be some sort of Nintendo update at the award show, because
Right.
almost every single year there is. Now, last year I think technically there wasn't like an announcement at the show, but at 8 p.m. Eastern time when the show started, Nintendo announced 3 and 64 games to Nintendo
Right.
Switch Online. And so it could potentially be something as simple as that. We get like more NSO games announced during the award show, but I think it's worth noting that we've gotten several NSO games announced over the last few weeks. We just got a whole bunch of Donkey Kong Land games.
Yeah,
I
3.
don't think that that's what it's going to be this time around. And I also think that since we're looking at a Switch 2 announcement next year, I mean, some people think it might happen still this month, which it's
Seems a little bit of cope to me.
like it's probably not going to happen this week, right? And if it doesn't happen this week, there's like virtually no chance it's happening at all until next year. But the point is that most of us are in agreement that Switch 2 is coming out relatively soon, and we are in the middle of this transition, right? And so if there's a reason to kind of come back to the Game Awards and have your presence a bit more known, this is the time. As the generation has waned, you could argue that the significance of the announcements at the award show have waned, right?
Yeah.
But while they have waned, they still have been significant over the years. 2 different times we had Smash character reveals.
Those are hype.
Like 3 different times we've seen Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
One time they announced Bayonetta 3 and also 1 and 2. Another time they announced Bayonetta, or like some of these happened at the same event, right? Like there have been years where we get multiple things, right? We had a Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. There was a No More Heroes trailer once. I just mentioned Bayonetta Origins. So like Bayonetta's been a part of the award show 4 times on 2 different occasions. Fire Emblem Engage DLC was announced not last year but the year prior. So like things happen. Like we get announcements at the award show that are about Nintendo published products. So I think, yeah, odds are there's going to be something this year as well. Now, the bigger question is, what is going to be that something? And when I look at the history of announcements, yes, there have been times they've announced a brand new game twice. Well, and I guess Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 was also announced at the award show, so maybe 3 times. I think for No More Heroes, it was just an update trailer. It wasn't the first time we had heard about it. So there was Bayonetta Origins, there was Bayonetta 3, and there was a Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I don't even think No More Heroes is a Nintendo published game, so that's it's just conveniently a Switch exclusive. But anyways, yeah, so there have been times we've seen new game announcements, but they're for partner projects, right? Like Platinum Games is not owned by Nintendo. They make the Bayonetta games. They're only going to come to Nintendo, but they're not actually a Nintendo studio, right? It's a little bit of a blurred line situation there. But outside of that, like every single announcement we see at the Game Awards that's a Nintendo related announcement, it's an update on something that's already been shown off before. So, like, we didn't see Breath of the Wild for the first time at the Game Awards, but we did see it multiple times after it was initially shown off. Smash Brothers the same, Fire Emblem the same. So, I would venture to guess that if we are going to see something from Nintendo at the award show, odds are, based off their history of the kinds of announcements we've seen, it's going to be an update on something we already know about. So what is it that we know about for next year? Well, we have Pokemon Legends ZA, but I would say that's really unlikely because 1, doesn't really fit the audience, and 2, they're not going to sit. I doubt that they're going to finally reveal Legends Z at the Game Awards when they haven't done anything about it this entire year. I think we're just waiting for Pokemon
be weird,
Presents.
Especially from Pokemon Company. I mean, it's not till recently that we even saw like Pokemon announcements inside Nintendo Directs, much less other events. That would be kind of crazy, I think.
Yeah, it would be crazy.
They used to, even just a little while ago, it was you only really saw them in the Pokemon like specific presentations,
right,
or trailers.
So it's pretty unlikely that I mean, technically, we have seen Pokemon do some things in directs more recently, but if they haven't even shown off the game at all, we haven't even gotten that initial gameplay of Legends ZA, we're not going to see it in a direct. We're probably going to see it in a presents. The Riddler, right, who had leaks Pokemon things, has suggested we might see a trailer before the Pokemon presents in February. So maybe it's a surprise thing now. I think the implication has been rather January, though, which still seems odd to me. Point is, I just don't think it's likely that it's Pokemon because there's really no context for it. Which leaves us with 3 other options, and I think all 3 options are pretty conceivable. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, and Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, and they're all pretty conceivable for different reasons. In the case of Donkey Kong, the game's coming out in like 4 weeks. I think it's releasing January 16th, if I'm not mistaken. It's coming out next month. And we only have one proper new trailer. Technically, there's more footage out there. Actually, I think there was even something else that came out recently. So, like, there is, like, footage that's, like, getting out there, but there hasn't been, like, a proper new dedicated trailer that's been released on all of the different main Nintendo pages. Like, you haven't seen Nintendo of America be like, oh, here's another trailer for Donkey Kong Country Returns. We've just gone, like, that initial one, and we might see a few little things here and there. So I think there is reason to put out a new trailer. The game comes out January 16th. So timing wise, 2 days from now, it's literally gonna be a month away from release. We probably should get another trailer on the game. So there's a good chance that they put this out at the awards show. Of course, they could also just do this on Twitter, like early January, or maybe even sometime this month. But timing wise, like, I really wouldn't be surprised if we see another update on Donkey Kong. Now, the thing about Donkey Kong, though, is that it is a remaster, and we pretty much know everything that's in the game already. Like, there's nothing that they really need to tell us. We're just kind of like, oh, is there any, like, small visual improvements or anything like that? Like, we already know the extent of all the content. So they may not even really need to put a trailer of that in such a significant place. But I'm just saying that, technically, we probably should get another trailer, and they could do it at the awards show. In the case of Xenoblade Chronicles X, in some ways, I feel like this one makes more sense because with Xenoblade Chronicles X, while it is also a remaster, we do not know the extent of all the content of the game because we know they're adding new content. There's been several pieces of evidence that strongly suggest it's going to be essentially like an epilogue quest, very much like Future Connected.
I'd be very surprised if it wasn't.
In the first one. So there's going to be some kind of new campaign in the game, potentially even a new area. And so at least new story stuff, right? So there is reason to show that off at some point before it comes out in March. Now, it's coming out in March. They could wait till January or February to do that, right? But it is an option at the awards show. And I do feel like Xenoblade Chronicles X actually would fit more so than other Xenoblade games, even though, like, Xenoblade has gone nominations at the award show before, although not as often as maybe it should. We've also seen Fire Emblem news, and if Fire Emblem news is okay, then so is Xenoblade. So that's another option. And then the option that I keep leaning towards is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is an actual new game. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is nominated for most anticipated game at the award show. And what's very curious about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, there's actually several things, right? But one thing that was pointed out, and I've pointed this out in my videos, right? But like before it was nominated, Jeff Keighley, like shortly after the Nintendo investors meeting on November 5th, he pointed out an image that Nintendo shared of all the games that are coming that have already been announced for Switch 1 in 2025. And he pointed this out, Jeff Keighley being the one who runs the award show.
Right.
He did say that he singled out Metroid Prime 4 is basically what I'm getting at here. He mentioned all these games are going to Switch 1, including Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Why do you feel the need to single out that game across in comparison to any others? Shortly afterwards, what happened? It was nominated for most anticipated game. Maybe that's why, and maybe that's it. Just because it's nominated doesn't mean it's going to get gameplay, because we had Tears of the Kingdom for most anticipated game, and we didn't see gameplay there, right? However, when Metroid Prime 4 Beyond was nominated for most anticipated game, we also got an update on the official Metroid website. they finally updated the official website to have Metroid Prime 4 Beyond listed there. It had its own section. And they could have done this at any point,
Right.
throughout the year. They showed
It was
off this
strange that
game
they
with
didn't.
gameplay in June. They didn't do it in June. They didn't do it in July, not August, not September, not October, but actually in November, if I'm not mistaken, like when this was actually nominated, when this happened. And so the timing is extremely curious, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yes, they could have updated it, whatever. Maybe it's a coincidence, but it's a very, very curious coincidence.
Very specific timing there. Very odd.
Yes.
It doesn't really line up with anything else. Like it makes kind of no sense other than the fact that it was nominated at the Game Awards. Honestly, I'm just really shocked they didn't have an update to the website when they released the first trailer, because they could have just done that. So yeah, it's very suspicious. Very suspicious.
Right. And the thing is, this rabbit hole gets a little deeper. So this stuff is admittedly, like, it's not as compelling, right? I saw someone say that I made a giant reach. I was just pointing out the info, right? I was pointing out the info and I get attacked for it, but whatever. I was excited about it, so maybe that's why. But Doug Bowser, the president of Nintendo, is like shouting out Jeff Keighley for the award show. And that isn't necessarily him saying, oh, there's going to be something at the award show. But Doug Bowser doesn't always do this. So it's very curious. There's a little bit more activity there. And also, it kind of on the same vein, Jeff Keighley did not respond to when Nintendo acknowledged Tears of the Kingdom to be be up for most anticipated game when it was nominated back in December 2022. But Jeff Keighley did respond to Metroid Prime 4 being up for most anticipated game this time when Nintendo tweeted about it. So these are like little things that they're not like that big, but they're just kind of like, oh, okay. I just think they're worthy of note, right? But what I think is perhaps bigger is that we do have a rumor coming from Samus Hunter, who has seemingly been maybe the best Nintendo leaker this year outside of maybe like Midori because of the codename stuff. Because they've teased 3 different things. They teased Xenoblade Chronicles X shortly before it was announced. They teased the Donkey Kong Direct shortly before it was announced. And they teased Emula's Smiling Man before it was officially confirmed to be that title from that series. No one else has done things to this level. And they've said other stuff, right? They've been hinting at Silk Song. And there's other stuff, right? So it's up for debate, but at least there's been nothing that's been wrong. They haven't been like saying a whole crazy bunch of things as they did a few years back where we kind of feel like they lost credibility. Then this new year, they're even more credible and consistent than any other leaker is really the point I'm making here. And so they've also said that Metroid Prime 2 is supposed to come out next quarter. That might mean it falls into the February time slot. And Metroid Prime 3 is also supposed to come, but I don't think the timing of that was clarified. It might be at the same time or a little bit afterwards. But the point is, we are getting Metroid Prime 2 and 3 before Prime 4 in the first half of next year, maybe in the first quarter of next year. And if that's the case, it kind of reminds me of another situation, because I brought up how Bayonetta 3 has been shown off of the Game Awards, right? Well, they didn't just show off Bayonetta 3, they also announced Bayonetta 1 and 2. So they did Bayonetta 1 through 3 at Game Awards 2017. They could do Metroid Prime 2 through 4 at Game Awards 2024. Yeah, I think it's conceivable. And then we would have our January through March games, which is also a weird thing. We don't have a February game. We usually do, which has led a lot of people to speculate that maybe they're going to announce it at the Game Awards. Kind of like how when they announced Bayonetta Origins to be the March game a couple years back.
Yes.
So there's these little things going on. If you believe Samus Hunter, either Metroid Prime 2 is getting shadow dropped in a direct in February, or it's going to get announced on Twitter like in January or something like that. Or maybe we're getting an announcement like, this week at the awards show. Yeah.
I mean, they could shadow drop it just like they did 1, but I don't think that was the best marketing strategy for Prime 1 Remastered. No. And these aren't going to be as extensive efforts. So maybe a little more marketing might be good.
Yeah. So, anyways,
preferable.
you've been stuck on this Metroid thing for a while, right? It's kind of like there's a lot there. I haven't even really finished the point yet. Um, Point is, if there is reason to expect a Metroid Prime 2 announcement soon, it's kind of fitting they would come alongside maybe another quick look at Prime 4.
Yeah.
And it is up for most anticipated game, eventually all the other things. But the other angle is, if we are expecting a Switch 2 reveal late January, early February, and if you believe that Prime 4 is going to be a cross-gen title, I do, then similar to how they hyped up Breath of the Wild going into the Switch generation in
Right.
the Game Awards, I think it also makes sense to hype up Prime 4, not just as a Switch 1 title, but also a Switch 2 title. I don't think they'll confirm it to be a Switch 2 title this year, just so we're clear, but it still makes sense to show off the game, get people excited about the game. And I do think Prime 4 is going to be a part of that launch window for Switch 2. For Switch 2. And if Switch 2 is launching in the May to July period, Prime 4 might not be that far off. I'm not saying it's a day one title. Maybe it is. I would lean more towards Mario or Mario Kart, but I think it could come out like before the summer is over. If everything we're hearing is going to hold true. So because of all of that, I'm leaning in the direction of Metroid Prime 4. I think that would probably be like the boldest thing Nintendo could do here outside of Switch 2, which doesn't really make sense at this point.
No.
But, if it's not Metroid, I feel like a Donkey Kong trailer or a Xenoblade X trailer would also be possible.
Yeah, I could see a Donkey Kong trailer just being like, not even really an announcement, but just one of those trailers that they have trailers all the time at the Game Awards.
Maybe they'd even do it on Twitter. It might not even be during the award show, but it might just happen during, it won't be at the award show, but it might be announced during the award show on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, they could totally have a new trailer for Donkey Kong and something else, because it wouldn't even be a big deal. It'd be like a little bit of new footage or something.
They could do more than one thing.
Yeah, that would be a very, very small thing.
Yeah, for sure. I believe, if not mistaken, Bayonetta Origins and I'm pretty certain. Both Bayonetta Origins was announced at that Game Awards 2022, and Fire Emblem Engage's expansion pass was also shown off at the same event. Those are two pretty significant things. So they could do something like that this time too. Which to me, I'm kind of just leaning, okay, give me Metroid Prime 2 and footage on 4.
Right.
Like, to me, those are the two things, but we'll see what they do. Shout outs to Mike Odyssey, has become a member. Glad to have you, buddy. Welcome. But let's get back to the chat, because Having Hope provided a really good question, and that was basically it's a whole topic. But anyway, Pokemon Fan 33 added me earlier. My friend was saying it will be shown in December, the Switch 2. I think it has to be shown at the Game Awards, or it's not being shown until next year. Do you agree? I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of touched on this already, but yeah, basically, like, I already assume Switch 2 is going to be revealed next year at this point. I'm looking at a late January to early February.
November 5th.
Yeah. Pretty much. But it's not completely out of the question. It's just very out of the. It's like there's a small possibility.
There's always a chance.
Right. The Xbox Series was announced at the Game Awards a few years back, so they could do that again with Nintendo. My expectation, though, is that it won't be there, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see like some third parties do certain things that feel very weird and are clearly hinting at Switch 2, kind of like how we've seen with Ruffy and the Riverside, and also Yukuru Playly. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more Switch 2 hints, but no official announcement from
developers.
Yeah. I think the craziest thing Nintendo could do is give us a big Prime 4 trailer and be like, oh, by the way, this is also coming to the Switch successor. Like, that's
insane.
already too much, in my opinion, but that would be cool. Like, they could do that, if there's like a big trailer update. But the thing is, another thing to note about the Game Awards is that, like, when we do get trailers, they're usually not big trailers. They're quick, short trailers. Sometimes they have expanded trailers on YouTube, like for No More Heroes 3. So, like, I'm hoping for a Prime 4 trailer, but I'm not even expecting for something as significant as what we got with the first one, which is arguably not even that significant, because it was less than 2 minutes
maybe like
footage.
30, 45 seconds.
Yeah, that's it.
Especially if we're going to see the game again, like in January or February.
Yeah. exactly.
We'll probably see it at the Switch 2 presentation. So
Yeah, it would be short. So yeah, like even me suggesting, but I probably that was me getting too excited. Like, yeah.
it is
Anyways,
it is
sorry,
cool.
Brandon, go
I
on.
mean, the angle that Prime 4 is kind of like the only Switch 2 thing that they can show, even though technically it wouldn't be related to Switch 2. I mean, they could show the Switch 2 version and just not say that. That would be interesting because like the Game Awards, I believe, is streamed at like 4K. So what if they just had like a 4K? Nintendo's had like much higher resolution um, versions of the games running in trailers. Like I remember back when Yoshi's Crafted World came out or was being revealed, it was a full 1080p in the trailer, and then it was like less than 720p in the actual game. So maybe we see a 4K version of Metroid Prime 4, and that's the closest thing we get to seeing something about the
Yeah.
Switch 2.
So my take on that is, Paul, I don't think we're gonna even get a 4K trailer, right? Like even if we did, I still don't think that'd be the Switch 2 version.
It might not be. It could just be
No.
like a 4K PC version of the Switch 1 version.
I like
Which is
best
still
case scenario.
interesting.
It's gonna be like, remember when they showed off that Tears of the Kingdom trailer and Digital Foundry's like, oh, this must be Switch 2 footage or Switch Pro footage or something, because they're like, oh, the clouds look amazing. But it was just a good looking trailer. Maybe it was running at a higher
But
resolution,
yeah, it was
like from
because
the
it was
PC
running
version.
at
But
like a full 1080p with
yeah,
like good
um,
anti-aliasing, like really good anti-aliasing, which the game didn't have in the end at
yeah.
all.
But the thing is, like, yeah, like maybe we see something like that, but that's still. I expect that Metroid Prime 4, if there is a Switch 2 version, is going to be better looking than what that would be.
Yeah, I mean,
So
true, but they could also just show the Switch 2 version and not
they won't.
say.
They
They
won't.
probably won't. They'll probably just save
No.
that for the Switch 2
Like
presentation.
they could just show like a really cool looking cutscene. Like it's not even like gameplay, so it just looks good. Like that when we saw
Yeah.
that cutscene of like Samus. Yo, like maybe it's not even 45 seconds, dude. Like maybe it's like 15 seconds, but it's just like a cool
Yeah.
15 seconds of like Samus versus Ridley or something, and it just gets us hyped. Like it could be something as simple as that.
Yeah.
But it would be crazy.
Cool.
Yeah. Or maybe it could be like one of those like panning shots of a new area and then something crazy happens. Like there's ways they could do this without like straight up showing true gameplay. So
Right.
anyway, moving on. Connor asks me, "Hi man, so the Robobot rumor. So if Triple Deluxe is not in it, then I won't buy it. Also, for Susie's side mode, would it be about her backstory or Susie bringing back Kirby's Robobot armor?" So I can't speak for that because I have not played Robobot. I am excited about this rumor because I believe it. I think we are going to get Robobot coming to Switch.
Robobot is one of the ones I really wanted
Yeah.
to play. It was like really late in the 3DS's life,
Yeah.
and I was like not on 3DS that time.
No, for me, it's the ideal Kirby remaster.
Yeah, for sure.
I wasn't
interested in the
Kirby
last
remaster, but the one that if they were to remaster one, this is the one they wanted. I know some people are talking about how they wanted like
I'm
a
hyped
bundle.
for this.
I haven't. I've always thought that if they were to remaster them, it'd be like separately.
Yeah, I mean, Triple Deluxe is
to me.
a completely different game. Like it would be weird if they just bundled them together like they were the same thing at all. They're not. They're completely different.
And the other thing, Brandon, is that like there could still be new content. I mean, I would argue there probably will be. You look at what they did with Return to Dreamland Deluxe and Magolor's Epilogue Quest. Like, they've already set a precedent. That's that's a Kirby remaster. Like, to make one Kirby remaster and then do another one 2 years later without a similar kind of level of effort, it's gonna be very noticeable. So I would say, I think there's probably gonna be some kind of new content in there, and that's probably gonna get more people excited for it.
Yeah, I do think more people will be excited for this than Return to Dreamland Deluxe, just in general, because I think people care about this game more. So maybe they would be like, oh, we don't need new content because it's a bigger deal. But I would still think there'll probably be more content.
Yeah, and by the way, just to explain for those who aren't up to speed on this Kirby rumor, Nate the Hate put out a podcast and he decided to throw a bone to people for the holidays, and he confirmed that the 3DS game that he's been hinting at on family boards for a little while, a 3DS game that's been in discussions for last year, is Kirby Planet Robobot. So there you go. And then Samus Hunter followed up by saying that they heard that Kirby Planet Robot is coming out in the first half of 2025, and also the Fire Emblem remake. And these games will help to complete that Switch 1 lineup before Switch 2. So
Right.
that's essentially the pair of rumors there for Kirby, and I believe them.
Yeah.
Still take it with a grain of salt. Just because I believe them doesn't mean it's confirmed, right? It's coming from apparently two places that seem to have some decent credibility, at least as of
I mean,
late.
it makes sense. We haven't had any Kirby games since the Return to Dreamland Deluxe, right?
Which would be 2 years ago,
Yeah, which is really
starting
weird
February next year.
because
It'll
usually
be
there's a
2
ton of
years
Kirby
come this
games.
February. Yeah,
Usually
normally
there's
have an
multiple
annual
every
game.
year.
And then, well, actually, to me, if this news proves to be true, which again I believe it is, this is actually very, very good news, because not only am I excited about Robobot as a remaster for Switch 1, but given that they didn't have a Kirby release this year, and then 2 years later, about give or take a month or so, right? We're not sure exactly when it comes on the first half, but close, right? 2 years just to do another remaster, and you skip a year, a series that's pretty much annual.
Right.
To me, what this suggests is that they are hard at work on a direct follow-up to Forgotten Land. They are making the next 3D Kirby game. They are gearing it up for Switch 2, and it's not going to be long before that game is ready for the next generation. I'm not saying it's coming out next year at this point. I think that would go to Robobot, right? But perhaps the year after, we see it. Like, to me, that's what it
seeming
suggests.
viable.
Right. And that would be 4 years after the release of Forgotten Land, which came out in 2022. Yeah, it was a 2022 game. So I think that's a reasonable amount of time to get that going.
Yeah, I think that. What are their normal gaps like for mainline games? Like when did Robobot come out?
Well, let's take a look at that.
Well, actually, because we'd have to go to Star Allies. Was the one that came out on Switch?
Star Allies is a 2018 game. But I'm going to take a look at their history right now. Here, let me share it with you guys. Just on the good old wiki. So
I think 4 years is like actually a pretty big gap for them, isn't it?
So looking at more recent years, right? 2011, Face Raiders, Kirby's Master Attack, Kirby's Return to Dreamland. 2012, Kirby's Dream Collection. 2014, Kirby Triple Deluxe, Kirby Fighters Deluxe, Day-to-Day's Drum Dash Deluxe. These are spin-offs, but this is the mainline game for 2014, right? 2015, they had Box Boy, Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. I consider that a mainline game.
Yeah.
Right? And that was, only a year removed, right, from Triple Deluxe.
Right. A little different because those are on, two different platforms, but
then Box Boy and Kirby Planet Robobot, right? So if you don't want to count, for whatever reason, if you don't want to count Rainbow Curse, 2 years after Triple Deluxe, we got Kirby Planet Robobot, the one that we're about to see remastered, right? And then in 2017, Bye Bye Box Boy, Team Kirby Clash Deluxe, Kirby's Blowout Blast, Part-Time UFO, Kirby Battle Royale. Like, there's just a whole bunch of Kirby stuff. In 2018, it was Star Allies. That was the mainline Kirby game. Another Box Boy, another spin-off Kirby game. 2020, Kirby Fighters 2. 2022, Kirby the Forgotten Land, Kirby's Dream Buffet. 2023, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. 2024 has had nothing. Like, you can see that there's been a slowdown, right? Like, there used to be like several games a year. Now it's like, okay, there's no game this year, only one game last year, and it was just a remaster. If next year we're just getting another remaster, clearly things have slowed down. Where is the new content? Of course, you can always announce some more spin-off things, But I think, to me, given that Kirby and the Forgotten Land is literally the most successful Kirby game of all time, and they've seen the success
that was
of
made
games
in 4
that
years.
have a huge release early on a console, they probably want to put more resources into a follow-up to Forgotten Land. I'm not saying it's going to be like a story sequel. It might be, but I just mean another 3D Kirby game in the vein of
Right.
Forgotten Land. And yeah, 4 years, like looking at their history, that's a very reasonable expectation, I would say, right? Like
Yeah.
if you want to just look at like mainline Kirby games on Switch, Star Allies 2018, 4 years later, Kirby in the Forgotten Land. So given that they have had a slower output recently, you know,
For
looking
sure.
at the games that came out in between, I would say they have even more hands on deck, all more resources being poured into a follow-up to Forgotten Land in 2026. So to me, that's actually really good news that we're supposedly getting another remaster, but of Being Robobot for early next year, because it suggests that that is kind of like the big release for next year. Maybe there's another smaller spin-off, but most resources would be for the big one. Anyways, continuing on, scrolling through here. Boomini, big question you may have: will today's stream be a good stream? Answer: of course it will, because this is Andres Restart's channel where awesomeness is constant. Thank you
Yes.
for the glazing. I appreciate it. Thank you. I try, even when I'm not feeling it. The Elite Dragon 2X. Nintendo will be the last console standing with the new Steam console. Just remember I said that, guys. Another new Steam call. They're taking over the world. PC Master Race. Miguel Lopez asks me, I'm about to fight Mecha Ridley in Metroid Prime 4 Remastered. I'll be in the stream, but I won't talk a lot. That's fine.
Metroid Prime 4 Remastered.
Did I say 4?
Yes.
Oh, must be me from the future.
Man, we're skipping straight past Metroid Prime 4 to Metroid Prime 4 Remastered.
Miguel just said Metroid Prime Remastered. I just added the 4 in, probably because I say Metroid Prime 4 a lot. Bradley Taylor, you may ask questions. I realize we're probably getting to this a little late, but yes, ask away. We're trying to get to them. But sometimes when we get a question, it just becomes a topic. So there you go. By the way, Brandon, you may not have seen this, but Josue Colon says, what about Nintendo show his face? His voice sounds sexy. So there's some
If you want to see my face,
well.
just go to my Twitter account and then go to my Blue Sky account, and then you can see my face.
Yeah. Shout outs to Mike Odyssey in the chat.
Probably add a picture somehow.
Rico Lee, hey Andres and Brandon, what's up? Excited for this podcast. Been a lot going on Switch 2 rumor wise lately. I mean, yeah, I feel like we started to touch on it a bit. Mike Odyssey saying Switch 2 tomorrow. Well, I'll say this: that if there is any Switch 2 news at the Game Awards, Nintendo's saying, hey, stay tuned for the award show. There might be something regarding the future of Nintendo there. Like they would do something to steer a major audience to the award show. I do not believe that is what is going to happen, but if it's going to be there probably would be some sort of social media announcement from Nintendo beforehand to get us ready for that. So we'll see. Bradley Taylor here. Andres, do you think Nintendo? Oh my God! There's Brad's face.
There I am.
Yeah, he's actually just a PNG file, but a beautiful PNG file. Yeah,
I am a virtual person. I'm not real. This is an AI.
Yeah, he's actually an AI. Yeah, AI is advancing quite quickly these days.
Quite.
I mean, it's so advanced. He basically has a soul. Like I can't tell the difference.
It's like Detroit Become Human. I need rights.
There you go. Bradley Taylor, do you think Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart 9 will be announced at the Game Awards this Thursday, and then they release March of 2025? What's your prediction for that scenario? So, I think it's going to be Nintendo Switch 2 and Mario Kart 10. No, I'm just kidding. Well, am I? No, I don't know what I'm saying. I was just making a joke about the Mario Kart 9 versus Mario Kart 10 debate. You may have already heard my expectations at this point, because I realize these chats might be a bit. I may have came out. These questions may have came a little while ago, but I do not think Switch 2 is coming out in March anymore. No, I believe
unlikely.
I believe the Nintendo report. I believe the Samus Hunter and Nate the Hate chatter that they've all heard, which kind of puts us in a window of late May to early July, maybe just snack dab in June. But that's kind of the window I'm looking at now. And I mean, it makes sense because you look at what's happened over this year. Every time we've had a major investor meeting, guess what happens? Nintendo gives us a big update on Switch 2. And so we have another one coming on February 4th, given that
Oh,
it's kind of getting close to the time when they would have to reveal the console, because they've already confirmed to us that there's going to be an announcement about Switch 2 before the end of the fiscal year. And announcements do not include the things that they've mentioned on Twitter. I think it's basically probably the reveal. That I think it's a really good chance we're gonna get the reveal by that date, by February 4th. That's what I think. At the very least, they'll say, "Hey, we're going to have a reveal of Switch 2 on such and such date by
yeah.
February 4th." Um, and so, if that's the case, given how they handled Switch 1, the reveal to release window was 4.5 months. We have this date. We have the shareholders meeting on February 4th. We're hearing about a release window of late May to July. That's a very similar kind of period of time.
Oh, yeah.
We have heard from the shipping reports that there are essentially box Switch 2s that Nintendo's already received.
Oh,
So why? Because Foxconn has already reported on, like, I have to go back and check, but I think it was like 836,000 units, which is like several times higher than any other reported month. I'm getting my numbers off here, but the point is, the numbers were way. I would have to hold on. I can pull it up for you. I got to go back and pull up the link.
check
Give me
real
a second.
quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I have it. I'm gonna pull it up for you. Just give me a second. Okay. So it's loading. Okay, here we go. I think I was mixing up two different things.
Oh, okay.
So, but both are legit. So, like, one was, I think there is like 800 plus thousand like T239s produced,
Right.
which is a few times higher than prior months. But also, the Foxconn reported for the month of November a revenue increase year over year of 223%, and this isn't accounting for anything that's been publicly announced yet. And also, apparently, they wouldn't show this data unless it's been received by the actual client, because they follow the IFRS standards, the International Financial Reporting Standards.
Okay.
So basically, that means that Foxconn, whatever that percent increase in operating revenue, that is a dramatic increase by far. Apparently it's a 223% year over year increase, and it's a 74% month over month increase. Like, this is, they put together a lot of stuff, and it's been received. They wouldn't, if it hadn't been received, they would not have reported it, is what I'm saying here. And so point is, we have like literal evidence out there that Nintendo's putting the Switch 2 together, which just further supports the thinking of like the summer release, like that, or a late spring, early summer release, like that. There is data pointing to that. And by the way, if this is the case, it would actually kind of explain why we haven't gotten a reveal yet, because they're not close enough to when the console's releasing yet to reveal the console. I think that's the main reason why we haven't seen Switch 2 yet, because they are not close enough to the release date to reveal the console for how quick of a turnaround they want to have. I think that's pretty much it.
Makes sense.
Anyway.
I mean, if the timing compared to Switch is a few months further out, March compared to as late as like July, then it makes sense that the reveal as well would be pushed several months ahead too. So yeah, January, February, I think it's the earliest. If we, I mean, before we were kind of expecting maybe like a March or April event. I think
which is why we thought a reveal this year made sense, but now that we're hearing about it coming out a little bit later, it doesn't make sense anymore. Like, if I knew that June was going to be the release month for Switch 2, I wouldn't have predicted a September reveal.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's just, we wouldn't have thought it would be this At the very
Yeah.
least, like as early as August or September, definitely would have been ruled out. But even October, probably, I don't think we would have thought that.
Yeah. And then in terms of like, so, you know, with that in mind, I would also say that like if Switch 2 is coming out May, announcing at the Game Awards is possible, but it's definitely a longer window than what they did for Switch 1. And May is like the earliest we're expecting the console at this point. Some people want to still argue April, and maybe, but that's not what we're hearing. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm not expecting to see Switch 2 or Mario Kart at the Game Awards, but I do think, I mean, as we've been discussing, we're really not that far off. And I also think Mario Kart is going to be a big part of the first year of Switch 2. It might be the day one launch title. It might be 3D Mario. It might be Metroid Prime 4. It's one of those three. Metroid Prime 4, I say, is the least likely of the three, but I think all three are possible.
Yeah.
And I think all three are coming on the first year, personally. Some people think that maybe Mario Kart saved for a little bit later, but it's Mario's 40th anniversary next year. I think Nintendo's going to go ham.
Why.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see why the game wouldn't be done. It's been so long.
I think it's more of just, if it would be a matter of spacing things out, right? Like, let's say worst case scenario, Switch 2 comes out in July, based off what we're hearing, right? Then let's say the launch title is 3D Mario. It still makes sense to have Mario Kart for like November, right? Like, you have Metroid Prime 4 come out in August or something, like, and there's gonna be other games.
You launch with Mario Kart in the summer. It's a big multiplayer online game, perfect for the summer. That's great. And then you have a nice 3D Mario on October or November.
But let me ask you this, Brandon. Let's say Switch 2 is not coming out till October, November next year. At that point, do you think we would get both 3D Mario and Mario Kart in 2025?
Probably not. Okay. I imagine then we would get probably 3D Mario to have that big holiday game, and then like Mario Kart in the spring. I don't know.
Yeah. I just don't believe that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I like summer for Mario Kart, though. I like it fits well with the launch if it is in the summer.
I kind of like
people gonna have time.
Play that game I would prefer the 1-2 punch of Mario Kart and Metroid Prime 4 in the first 2 months, and then we save 3D Mario for the holidays. In fact, let's put a poll. Let's see how everyone else feels about that. What is your preferred? How would you prefer to receive these games? There's going to be other games, right? But these are just kind of like the ones that are, mostly speculated. How would you prefer to receive these games? Okay, I can't spell receive. All right. Mario Kart as the Mario Kart launch title, Prime 4 soon after. Cross-gen. Do I have enough space? Nope. Wait, do I? Oh, no. This is gonna be harder to type out than I thought. All right, so I'm gonna have to use like acronyms. MK.
Right.
Just MK for Mario Kart. Mario Kart for the launch day. Right. Prime 4. I'll put MP4. MP4 soon after. Then 3D Mario. I'll just call it SP, Super Mario Holiday. Oh, that's still not a. Okay, better. I'm just gonna do arrows. There we go. So
you could just have the first. You could just do it in the order. It's just assumed.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
People can just assume what they mean.
MP4. You're right. That's way simpler. MP4 and then Super Mario. right? And then another order would be Super Mario, MP4, Mario Kart,
Right.
and then I don't know. Let's just say MP4 is a launch title. Why not?
Yeah, yeah.
And then what do we
Say
get
Mario
next?
Kart and then maybe Mario.
Yeah, and then one final option. We'll
Uh,
have we'll have Super Mario as a launch title, Mario Kart in between, and then Metroid Prime 4 as a holiday title.
cool.
So that's the order. Let's see what wins. I would prefer Mario Kart first, Metroid Prime 4 shortly after, like a month later,
Right.
and then Super Mario for the holiday. That's my
Yeah.
preference.
I agree.
I'll take them in any order, just so we're clear. But that would be my preference. So shout outs to Taker610 for a super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you for super chat. Taker610 asks, will Wind Waker Twilight Princess 4K on Switch 2 remakes be 2025 Zelda release? So I wouldn't call them remakes. I would refer to them as remasters.
Yeah. Unless they do something differently.
Unless they actually go back and like completely rebuild them. But I don't expect that.
No.
And honestly, I'm not even sure we see Twilight Princess. But
Yeah.
they could be 2025 releases.
My hopium is that Twilight Princess HD is just not going to be a thing past the Wii U because they're working on a full remake one day after Ocarina of Time. A long time from now. But still, I'd prefer that.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I want to see Twilight Princess remade from the ground up to look even better than what we saw for that Wii U tech demo.
I want them to reimagine the world to like actually give you that like horse riding battling that they people expected,
and better boss fights. Like the designs
I
are
actually
cool.
really like the boss.
I just mean difficulty.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I just want the difficult. I just want like the AI to be kind of fixed up a little bit or whatever sort of. Just make it a little bit more challenging. That's really all I'm asking for.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. But I will say that at least Wind Waker, honestly, I think still has a solid chance to come out.
I'd be shocked if it never happens.
Before Switch 1 is done.
Yeah.
And Twilight Princess, I mean, because they were rumored together, it could still be on the table as well. You know,
yeah, I mean,
don't
they could still have Twilight Princess
uprule
HD and still remake Twilight Princess a long time from now.
Right, because I mean, the thing is, if we're looking at a timeline of getting an Ocarina of Time remake, and then years later, after we get a new 3D Zelda, we get a Majora's Mask remake, and those are kind of like the big 3D Zeldas for Switch 2. Then in the Switch 3 generation, right? Maybe we're then like the first big Zelda is like the next 3D Zelda for that console, and then years after that, then we're talking about Twilight Princess remake. At which point, that would be so many years after just a port of Twilight Princess, you know. So I think it'd be more than justified. And I called it a port, right? Taker here is referring to them as 4K and like being in 4K. I think these are gonna be Switch 1 releases. I don't even expect them to be like done for 4K. Like maybe there's some sort of like Switch 2 upscaling thing going on. Maybe.
The games are so light. I wouldn't be surprised if they could just have a patch where it just literally just changes it to 4K.
Right, and it wouldn't be like this massive visual upgrade, right?
Switch.
Because like it would just be an upscale. It wouldn't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't like completely rework the textures or anything like that.
No.
I don't think so.
I mean,
according to the rumor, these games have been done for a long time. Say it again, Brandon.
The biggest thing that I think they could reasonably do is upgrade the frame rate to 60 FPS, like they did for Skyward Sword.
Right. Yeah, but that's probably like something they can just, if they already have the source code, they can probably just get working. You know.
It depends on how like the game is made, because sometimes like things like physics and different ways the game works is tied to the frame rate. So you have to go back and like adjust the math to be correct.
But if they could do it for Skyward Sword. It
Yeah, no,
probably can do it for
it
the
can
other
be
two.
done. It just is some work.
I'm a little. I do think it's interesting though, because if I'm not mistaken, with Wind Waker and maybe also Twilight Princess, it kind of felt like there was an intentional delay when you would hit certain enemies with your sword attacks, especially in the Wind Waker. I personally felt that.
Mm.
And so I wonder, how changing the frame rate might impact that.
I mean, if it is like a hit animation thing, I imagine you would just make the same kind of changes that would be required for like if the physics or the speed of the game was tied to the frame rate. You would just change the same kind of. It's just changing the math
Yeah,
of when that
man, the
happens and
music
how
was so good
frequency.
in Wind Waker too. Like, because like in Wind Waker, as you would hit the enemies, it would be like you'd be playing, it'd be rhythmic, right? Like as you hit it, you'd
Yeah.
be playing a song, which is cool. Every hit was a note.
At
Such
the
a
very
good game.
least, at least the frame drops on the Wii U versions of both those games should be cleaned up on Switch, because
Okay.
that is annoying. Especially in
Yeah.
Twilight Princess, I feel like it's worse, or at least I noticed it more.
hmm
It was pretty bad in some areas.
So right now I am looking through the chat, trying to like catch up. Velociraptor goes, "Yo, guess what I just got? Resident Evil remake on the GameCube. I just started the game, so please no spoilers. What can I say? It's really hard, but it's pretty fun. I will not spoil the game, but I will say that there's some creepy moments and there's death
I
because you
played
can
about
die.
like halfway through the game, I think, maybe a little bit more. This isn't a spoiler really, but it might help you determine where I am. I'm like at a castle or something. There's a lot of
Interesting.
enemies that have one hit kill, and it's super annoying. It's been years since I played the game though, so I had it emulated it way back when I streamed it actually on my YouTube channel. You could go watch that if you felt like it. It's probably still up. Pretty good game.
Yeah.
Pretty good game. I'm not a huge fan of games where you have to stop moving to shoot. But is what it
Get
is.
good, bruh. I've been getting my butt kicked in Demon Souls. It's pretty hard.
Fair,
I'm playing it on
fair.
PS5. It's hard for different reasons. It's like the fights
Right.
themselves aren't that hard. It's just kind of like it's like resource management
Ah.
and just finding where to go next. Apparently, I've been stuck in these lava tunnels forever, and apparently I just have to jump down a hole. But I didn't want to die, so that's why I didn't
Right.
jump down the hole. So, yeah,
I've heard
it's
that
like
game is much harder on a new game plus run. Like it gets like insanely difficult.
I don't know. Every new game plus I've played for a Souls game has felt easier, but maybe I haven't played enough of them. The ones I've done Dark Souls, I've done Bloodborne, I've done Elden Ring now, and plus it's DLC.
Nice.
And now I'm on Demon Souls. So yeah, I'm definitely. I thought I would finish the game quickly, but I'm. It's not. It has not been quick. Yeah. Anyway, coming back to the chat. Oh, I do want to say, I just because we were talking about the Resident Evil remake on GameCube, like back then, I thought the graphics were insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even
Just
today you view it on a CRT. Whew,
like, oh,
looks good.
that's pretty good. Yeah, it holds up. They're pretty. Kendrick Lama adds me. I think the one thing to watch out for is if on the day prior Nintendo tweets saying to watch it. They always do that when they have the stuff to show and say. If they, yeah. Once Nintendo does that, that's like, oh man, overdrive mode, hype overdrive mode, So we got that. Wilberforce Wooster here says people think Samus is hinting at Silk Song. They confirmed that it was Silk Song.
It's like a Game Awards announcement or something.
No, Samus Hunter has teased a few things, and one of them was like in a cryptic way. It was was Link from Ocarina of Time in the Skulltula house with all the cobwebs. And later, Samus Hunter publicly confirmed that people's suspicions were true, that it was a Silk Song reference.
Oh.
The implication being, well, they've said that by winter's end, we would see Silk Song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it gotta be the Game Awards then, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, winter.
Well, no, I would not
like
say
February,
that.
right?
No, yeah, I would not say that it's got to be at the Game Awards.
Yeah, because
no,
it doesn't have to be this year.
I would say
I was thinking winter this year.
No, winter as in winter.
Yeah. No.
So January, February. I would say like maybe we see it in a partner showcase in February. That's kind of like what I'm thinking.
Be nice.
Yeah. The question mark man, Andres asks me, hey Andre, do you think that the gaming companies that are involved with the Switch 2 will take matters into their own hands and reveal their Switch 2 info even without Nintendo permission? Well, it kind of takes us back to like the whole Satisfy Zen Grip 2 thing, right? Where they like, I mean, let me show you this. Like to me, it's not
Stuff's
like
already happening.
Yeah, there are companies taking it into their own hands to kind of advertise it a little bit. It's crazy. But like you look at this, like have yours in hand for the next gen launch. Next gen launch of what? Like this is a handheld hybrid device, like top secret, right? Like shipping estimated spring 2025. Made for next gen console. Like this is for the Switch 2. Like they're not they're not even like they're making it obvious.
This is definitely for the new Xbox handheld that isn't coming out for years.
Right. And also, we've talked about the release date for Switch 2, right, being late May to early July. Well, guess what? Technically,
Does that say spring? It's very hard to read the text.
Yeah, it says spring.
Okay.
Yeah. So, they're taking matters into their own hands. I mean, look at this. Next gen ready on their website.
Right.
This is
a grip that seems to use magnets.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, yeah, I do think.
It comes with a carrying case as well. Okay.
Yeah, I think there are companies that are taking matters into their own hands a little bit. We already mentioned Yooka Laylee. They basically announced their game for Switch 2. They just couldn't call it Switch 2. They just said Nintendo, and they put the eye emojis roughly and the Riverside. They said it's coming to Nintendo Switches. Yeah, companies are kind of doing it already. It's smaller companies. It's not like Capcom or Ubisoft yet, but yes, it's kind of happening. And I expect more, maybe at the Game Awards. So that's what I'll keep my eyes peeled for. Demonic Brawler at scene. Nintendo will definitely show something at the Game Awards. What exactly and how major it is up for debate. However, one thing that everyone keeps forgetting is this is the 10th anniversary of the Game Awards. So, okay, time to show off Breath of the Wild 3. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Or you could just look at it as, hey, they want to really hit it out of the park here, right? So they've tried to line up some big announcements, including Metroid Prime 4. We'll see. Pokemon fan added me earlier. How do you feel about Legends not being Johto or Hoenn? I really felt they could have done a lot with those gens. I mean, I remember, I was theorizing we were going to do a Legends game before they announced it was going to be a Legends game. A lot of people were saying, oh, they're not going to do a Legends game again. That's so dumb. And it kind of makes sense. And that's exactly what happened. However, I was theorizing Legends Kyurem. I didn't care. Honestly, I'm just happy it's a Legends game, right? I don't care if it's Generation 5 or whatever.
General, well, it still had some bad PR, but in general, it's widely considered the best Pokemon game to come out in a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, why would they not follow it up? It also sold really, really well.
Yeah, it sold really, really well, and they didn't really push it like they do for their other games. That's the crazy part. So I bet the next one's gonna sell a lot better.
Yeah.
And so, how do I feel about it not being Johto or Hoenn based? I'm completely fine with that. I'm just happy they're making a Legends game. Do I eventually want to see a Legends game take place in Hoenn and Johto? Oh, for sure. I want to see Legends Celebi. That would be crazy, you know. I want to see Legends Unova, you know, based on or Legends Kyurem, right? Or for Hoenn as well. Like there's a few options there. So definitely, you know, I want to see more. And I think the fact that we're getting a second one pretty much confirms that they're treating this as a series, right? It was already evident that it was being treated as a series because it has a separate naming with Legends, right? And then there's a
Right.
there's like, you know, it's if it was just Pokemon Legends without the Arceus part, then it could just be like, oh, it's a standalone, right?
Yeah.
But because they're like Pokemon Legends Arceus, then they can be like, oh, Pokemon Legends, whatever, right? There's Pokemon Legends ZA is what we're getting this time, and they can do other ones. So I think there will be more, and eventually we'll get to those other regions. N64 Josh in the chat, what's up, buddy? Here, Josh says Kirby's a great choice, and I think it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning of 3DS remakes. I'm hoping we get Kid Icarus Uprising.
Yeah.
That's my favorite 3DS game.
We're the Tomodachi Life fans in the chat. There's always a few.
Yeah,
There's always a few
yeah.
people asking for Tomodachi Life.
Yeah. Netweed09 here. 2025 will be a crazy nonetheless. 3D Mario 99%, Prime 4 100%, AAA holiday title 99%, Pokemon ZA, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Primes 2 and 3 remakes, remasters 99%. Then the ports plus stuff we don't know. Totally crazy. Yeah, we got a good lineup next year. Looks like.
Yeah, I don't
pretty
think
excited.
the Switch 2 launch year is going to be lacking in any way.
No. Well, some people might get mad at you for assuming the Switch 2 is launching next year. So be careful. Yeah.
I mean, if we already know it's going to get announced by March, I feel like,
Seems safe.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty safe considering their, track record of release.
Shout outs
field of
to
release.
those watching. We got 130 people watching. Got over 50 likes. I appreciate that. Yeah. Joycey J asked, "Do I hear a kitty? Has your kitty been meowing, Brandon?"
Probably.
Yeah, mine's just been sleeping, so she's good.
He was sleeping on my legs earlier, but he got up and he went upstairs. He's probably yelling at me from upstairs and I can't hear him.
Maybe.
He's like, "Give me treats because I woke up."
Yeah, Ruby, my cat's just sleeping right now, so. Demonic Brawler, a new Star Fox 2026. I believe it.
I'd be hyped if it was good.
It will be good.
I love Star Fox 64. I'm just always hoping there will be a game as good as that.
Yeah, will it come out in 2026? We'll see. But I believe there will be a Star Fox for Switch 2, and I do think it's going to be good.
Oh, yeah.
Better than Zero, for sure.
I would hope.
Book it. Velociraptor Ghost asks me, I want it to be Prime 4 to be a launch title for Switch 2 because then it would sell like no other Metroid game. It would bring so many new fans, but I don't think it will happen.
Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah. I agree with you that if it was a launch title, it would probably help sales, but I also think it sold really well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it could still sell really well, even it not being a launch title.
I don't think it needs to be a launch title. I do think being close to the launch will help, because there won't be as many different games from third parties that might people might think are similar. Or just distract them in general. Like it's just good to be, close to launch. Plus, if they have Mario Kart at launch, then having a big action adventure game would be good to have close to launch after.
Yeah. Wasp Ranger here says, is kind of on a similar note. I don't want Prime 4 as a launch title because I would vastly prefer to play it sooner rather than later. I really do not care about a next-gen version because we still need to see this gen Prime. I mean, I understand your point to an extent, My thing is, like, you're going to still be able to play Prime 4 on Switch 1. If you don't want to get Switch 2 immediately, you don't have to. And I think the Switch 1 version is going to run well. We've already seen footage of it. It looks good. And, maybe I'm wrong, right? But I believe there's a cross-gen version. I believe
I think
it's
it's going to be
possible.
worth it to play it on Switch 2.
Yeah, I think it's possible that there will be an enhanced version that comes out afterwards. But I don't think we really have any signs that Prime 4 is an early 2025 release at this point.
No.
No.
Seen one
now,
trailer.
summer is on the table. I mean, heck, May's on the table. If you look at is May actually on the table?
I think May only makes sense if it's a Switch launch title and the Switch 2 happens to come out in May.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can see
so.
That. Because I don't think they're going to release the game like a month or two before the Switch. I think they would just wait.
You consider what we know so far. We have Donkey Kong and Xenoblade X, but if we assume the rumors are true with Fire Emblem Remake and then Kirby Planet Robot, and plus Metroid Prime 2 and 3, right? Like, we got to get Prime 2, and I think we're getting Prime 2 and 3 before Prime 4. And so, like, we're going to be able to play Prime 2 and 3 on Switch in the first half of next year, based off the rumors. And so, I think... there's another thing I didn't mention from earlier. We have confirmation of this collaboration for the Metroid Prime 1 through 3 visual retrospective. That's coming out in the summer. Now, that's a retrospective of Metroid Primes 1 through 3, including Prime 1 Remastered. To me, it makes a lot of sense to have that come out after Primes 2 and 3 come out for Switch, but before Prime 4. And so, in my opinion, Prime 4 earliest is coming out this next summer, maybe a little bit later, which kind of, puts it in that position of being in the launch window, but maybe not like the day one title. I mean, it could still be the day one title, but I'm recognizing this an unlikely scenario.
Well, I mean, I think they want to position this game as something big too, and like I get Tears of the Kingdom came out in May, right?
Yes.
So like it's not like their big games can't come out in May, but Tears of the Kingdom is also Zelda, so like it doesn't matter when it releases, people are gonna buy it. I don't think an early year release especially before the Switch 2 launch, makes sense for Metroid Prime 4. I mean, maybe you could argue there'd be eyes on it because people won't have as much to play on Switch 1 that will be a big deal, but I think people won't care as much. Like, after the Switch 2 gets revealed,
I'm gonna do something dangerous.
It's going to be like a 3DS situation where people are like, I just want to buy a Switch 2. I don't want to play all these big games on my Switch 1.
I'm going to do something dangerous. I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it.
Gonna make a prediction? A bet? Even?
All right.
A wager?
I can't. I'm not making a prediction. I can't. I gotta be responsible here. I can't say anything specifically, but I will say that two birds, pretty chozo. That's it. That's all I'll say. What do you make of that? I don't know. What do you make? Maybe it's nonsense. But I can't.
Sounds like it to me.
I can't say anything else. I probably shouldn't have even said that. So, yeah. Make of it
two
what
birds,
you
one stone.
that's not what I said.
I know.
That is not what I said, and I'm not going to repeat it. Anyway, it probably means nothing. Don't worry about it. Anyway. Where are we? Link Exists is asking, what does a poll mean? I just got here, big bro. All right, I'll help you out, little bro. So I asked, how would you prefer to receive these games, right? And so MK stands for Mario Kart, MP4 stands for Metroid Prime 4, SM stands for Super Mario, and I just am referring to the order in which we get them. The first one being the Switch 2 launch title, the other one being the title that comes out maybe a little bit afterwards, like in between, and then the holiday title is the third one, right? And I'm saying this with the belief that there's going to be more than just these games coming up for Switch 2 next year. Metroid Prime 4 would obviously be a cross-generation title in this context, right? But that's a suggestion. And since you kind of brought it up, me looking at the poll, my preferred outcome is winning in the poll, and I would say handily. Yeah. So we're hovering between 39 and 40% of people preferring Mario Kart as a launch title, Metroid Prime 4 soon after, and 3D Mario as the holiday title. To me, honestly, I really, really like it in that way the most. But I want to dive a bit deeper into this because a few days ago I made the second episode in my Ultimate Games on Switch 2 series, right? The first one being about the Ultimate Star Fox game on Switch 2. And then this weekend I came out with the Ultimate Mario Kart game on Switch 2. And with Mario Kart, what I find there's some things that I looked into. Okay. And so I looked at this interview with the Mario Kart directors and producers from back when they were working on Mario Kart 8 back in 2013. This is when it took place, right? So it was a long time ago at this point. But it's also weird because that was the last full-on console Mario Kart. So we've been waiting a long time for something like this. But during that interview, they were asked about a double dash mode. You know, Mario Kart Double Dash from Nintendo GameCube, where you could have two racers on a cart. Yeah, you could do this in single player, but it was also a cooperative way to play the game, where you could have two people playing on one cart at a time, which I did a lot of with my little brother back when we were kids. But they were asked about double dash mode coming back in the future, and they said that they considered it for both Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart 8, but ultimately didn't do it this time. They left it open for it to be a feature to be used in the future. And so I thought about that for a second. I thought, whoa, okay, that's interesting. But it gets more interesting when you think about a few other things. One, in Mario Kart Deluxe, they did add double items, so there's kind of like a little bit of that there. But the bigger thing is that the Switch is going to be dramatically more powerful than the Wii U, right? So it's not even a jump from Switch; it's a jump from Wii U. And so the type of technology that's going to be available to the Mario Kart team this time around is going to be vastly improved. They're going to be able to do a lot more. And so I thought, well, what if the next Mario Kart, they don't up the racers, because they've upped the racers over the generations. I don't think they're going to up it to 16, even though they technically could, because if they do that, then they have to widen the tracks even more so, and that could take away just from the maneuverability and the tightness of the courses. So keep it as is to 12, but you can integrate a double dash mode. You still have single carts if you choose that, but you can have an alternative way to play the game, double dash mode, where you have double carts, where you can play two people on a cart or two characters per cart. However you choose to do it, it can work both ways. And so what this would mean, in theory, you could go online and play up to 24 people, or do land for people, which would be insane. But this is where it gets crazier, because a Mario Kart game made ground up for the Switch 2, for the Switch family of systems, it would have in theory worked for Switch from the Joy-Con perspective, but it makes even more sense for Switch 2 because it is more powerful, it could pull this off. But also, from what we have seen of the prototype Switch 2 Joy-Con, which, by the way, the whole Zen Grip 2 thing helps to further validate, because that blurry image basically matches the prototype imagery that we've seen before, the Switch 2 and the CAD files. The Joy-Cons are bigger, and the shoulder buttons, the special shoulder buttons, the SLSR buttons that are on the sides, they're also bigger and beefier. They're more comfortable to press, unlike the Joy-Con SL and SR buttons that we currently have, even with the little extra dongle to make them bigger. It's still not that great.
It's weird.
My point is, though, that on Switch 2, the Joy-Cons are going to be much more comfortable controllers to use individually for cooperative play, which is something they were touting as a big deal on Switch 1. But on Switch 2, if you have these two Joy-Cons that are bigger, work better as individual controllers, your launch title is a next brand new Mario Kart, which is amazing for local multiplayer, and it has a double dash mode that essentially also encourages cooperative play. This is like the perfect storm of a setup here.
Be nice.
So I'm just saying, if there's a double dash wheel in the next new Mario Kart with these Joy Cons that we've seen leaked like 6 times already, it would make a lot of sense. It would showcase the system really well. So that's just Mario Kart. Metroid Prime 4, you want to have like a big single player game soon after, but 3D Mario would probably, you don't want 3D Mario Kart to come out right next to each other. But Metroid Prime 4 next to Mario Kart, they are different enough. They're actually very different that I don't think one would take away too much from the other. But Metroid Prime 4 and 3D Mario take away a lot more from each other because they're single player campaigns, right? They're both hardcore single player Nintendo games. And then 3D Mario Kart, they're both Mario games, right? So they would also take a little bit from each other. But Metroid Prime 4 and Mario Kart of the three are the most different from each other. So if you want to have a 1-2 punch for the first couple months of Switch 2, I think it makes a lot of sense in that regard. And then 3D Mario is like, I mean, that's like the go-to ideal quality title. It's been for years, and I don't think it would feel any different this time around as well. It would be the perfect game you get for Christmas or Black Friday. So, to me, that would be the ideal lineup.
Oh yeah, because you get the multiplayer game, especially if it launches in summer. You get that multiplayer game right in the beginning of summer that you can play all throughout the whole summer, and then once you get a little bored of that, then boom, the big, exciting single player adventure with amazing graphics with that Switch 2 version, just blowing you away. And then a few months later, perhaps an even more impressive visual and another great gameplay experience. Maybe even open world one. Who knows what they're gonna do with that Mario game? I'm super excited. I kind of would love, screw the sales because I'm gonna buy all these, right? I'm gonna buy every single one of them. So screw the sales. I kind of want like a 3D Mario to come out day one, just because I'm so excited for what they're gonna do with that game. Mario Odyssey is like one of my favorite games ever. It's so good. I love 3D Mario. Grew up on Mario 64. Sandbox 3D Mario is one of my favorite gameplay experiences that can be offered. So, man, I'm very hyped for that one. But I do agree that it makes more sense to space things out. So in a more realistic world, I think Mario Kart, Metroid Prime 4, then 3D Mario works really, really well.
Yeah. I mean, we're pretty much on the same page. I have a question for you, Brandon. Boone did ask this question actually. Is Metroid Prime 4 going to be $70? The question was to me, but I want you to give me your opinion on this one.
I don't think that games in general are going to be like all of a sudden from Switch 2, like the base price is going to be 70. I actually think they're going to stick with 60 for a bit. I think third parties, obviously, they're going to be $70 still. So I don't think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be one of those special games that's 70. I understand it probably has a pretty big budget at this point because of how long it's been in development. But I think it just doesn't have the brand recognition to justify that. And I think it would be kind of bad for it. Unless they just are going to be like $7 is the new $60, then yeah, it was definitely going to be 70. But I don't think that's going to happen right away. So no, I think it's going to be $60 game. I also don't think the Switch 1 version is going to be $70. I don't think they want necessarily a price gap there.
Okay.
I think I'm definitely leaning towards 60. It could. There's still definitely a possibility of 70, but I would lean towards 60, and I would lean towards them sticking with 60 for most titles for at least a few more years.
So I agree with you, at least in respect to the Switch 1 version. I think that is going to be 60 no matter what. Yeah. I think you bring up a good point that the brand or like the strength of the Metroid IP is not at a point where you could release it for $70. You could do that for Tears of the Kingdom, and pretty much Tears of the Kingdom alone on Switch 1. I don't think there's anything else they could have gone with. Maybe Smash Ultimate, but that was years ago. So like
too early
back
for that.
then, it would have been a travesty.
Unprecedented for any console.
Yeah. So, but now with some games being costing $70, it was something they could get away with a little bit. On Switch 2, however, I think it's a different conversation. On Switch 2, you brought up how you don't think they would just do Metroid Prime 4 as like a $70 game, and I agree with that as well. Like, if there are not $70 games across the board, not a good idea. But to tell you the truth, what I'm thinking is that the majority of AAA games, like your typical big Nintendo games and third-party games, are going to be $70 on Switch 2. And so I think by extension, Metroid Prime 4 will be $70. And so some people are going to look at, the Switch 1 version is $60. Why am I going to get the Switch 2 version? But I also think the Switch 2 version is going to have more work done. It's going to have some visual improvements. It will be noticeable. And so people will feel that it's worth the difference.
It's possible.
Maybe there's even like, if you buy the Switch 1 version and you use the Switch 1 cartridge, you can have like a $10 upgrade to get the enhanced Switch 2 version.
Right. I mean, if there's a price difference, I definitely think something like that would be done. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like can.
Neither of us know. We don't know what they're going to.
There is a good chance they'll move everything up to 70 from now on with Switch 2. There's definitely there's no reason they couldn't, but I also don't think that they are in the same place like as the other companies are in terms of like the budgets and profits they make. So they don't need to. But then again, why not make more money if they think they can get away with it? It's tricky.
I would argue Nintendo's in a better position than the other companies. Like, the other companies, they're making games for more powerful consoles, so the argument is, well, these games have costed more money to make. But all these games drop in price pretty quick. Nintendo games stay where they're at. It's kind of annoying. I'm a hardcore Nintendo fan, but there are some games I didn't buy immediately, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I always wanted to play that, but I never got a chance. And I look at it like, oh, crap, it's still $60. Like, I want to play the Yoshi game that came out. Crafted World? Yeah, that came out in 2018. Like, I want to play that. It looks cool, but it's still $60.
It's all
so I'm like, it's a 2D side-scroller Yoshi game. It's pretty easy. I could probably beat it in just a handful of hours, and it's over 6 years old. Like, I don't know if I want to spend $60 on that. But it keeps its price. So like, Nintendo's really good at kind of keeping value, even though sometimes I think there are some games they probably should drop the price for, like that Yoshi game. But and they might, right? They might announce like a player's choice thing. I know there were some Black Friday deals recently. Maybe I should have been keeping my eyes peeled on that. But in terms of Metroid Prime 4, I think the Switch 2 version, I've been assuming it's gonna be $70. Like that's been my assumption. But we'll see what happens. Scrolling through the chat. Link exists. Atsy. I mean, I'd pay $70 for a grounded remake of Ocarina of Time on Switch 2. I would as well. Some people might not, though. Some people might be like, "Oh, really? Let's play this game back on N64." Yeah. But I think,
let's be honest. We'd probably pay an insane amount of money for that. Way more than most people. Like you probably get us to pay hundreds of dollars.
I've bought the same Zelda game twice more than once.
Right. Yeah. Same.
So, Zelda. The thing about there's something about Zelda where we spend more money than we should.
Yeah, just whatever the cost must be. wheeling.
But I mean, if it's a ground up remake and it's like slightly reimagined with some new elements to there, like I don't want to like venture too far down that path, but you introduce any level of newness to the game, I'm like, all right, here's $80. But yeah, that don't sell over 80, Nintendo, please. The sales will be impacted. Let's see. I got another chat jump, so I'm lost of where it was at before. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Let's end this poll.
Okay.
It could have kept going, but I ended it because I did that on a whim, and I'm actually going to wrap up the stream soon because I'm hungry and tired.
Makes sense.
But the poll ended at 80 votes. How would you prefer to receive these games? 36% said they would prefer Mario Kart as a launch title, Metroid Prime 4 afterwards, then Super Mario. In second place, 31%, so not too far off.
Close.
Metroid Prime 4 as a launch title, then Mario Kart and Super Mario. So my theory on how Mario Kart and Metroid Prime 4 kind of mesh better together because they're very different.
Right.
Than all the other combinations seems to apply, at least in terms of the poll. In 17%, Super Mario as a launch title, then Metroid Prime 4, then Mario Kart, and then at 15%, Super Mario, Mario Kart, Metroid Prime 4. Interesting. I should send this poll to Nintendo. Yeah.
The only one that trips me up is I feel like the one that got third place and the one that got fourth place should have swapped. But otherwise, yeah, I think I agree with the poll.
Why do you think they should have swapped?
I think because the one that got third place is Mario, then Metroid, then Mario Kart, right?
Yes.
So then you have two back-to-back big adventure games and then the multiplayer game to end. I feel like it would make more sense to have Mario Kart in the middle of those.
Sure. Yeah. Now, the kind of the weird thing about this question, right, is that like we don't know what the other games are in between, and so the other games in between can kind of clean that up a little bit, regardless of any of these lineups. But I do feel like these three games would probably be. I mean, Metroid Prime 4 and Super Mario are probably going to be the most critically acclaimed, and I wouldn't be surprised if this Mario Kart ends up being like the most critically acclaimed Mario Kart to date. Like if you're following up that Mario Kart 8 energy, but like even more so because you know of its potential, right? Like if Nintendo knew that Mario, you know what I mean? Like Mario Kart 8, I would argue was actually a pretty ambitious Mario Kart game.
Oh yeah.
But if Nintendo knew that the Wii U was going to sell over 100 million like systems, right? And if they knew that this game was going to sell over 60 million copies, do you think they might have thought, maybe we should go a bit more aggressive with this one? Like after the success of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and the Switch, I feel that going to next Mario Kart, they're going to feel a little bit more comfortable with investing a bit more resources into this next Mario Kart.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, there's Mario Kart 8 is an amazing multiplayer game, but it's not really much of a single player game. So I would definitely hope they put more focus into the single player aspect.
Yeah. I would like them to have like a booster course pass announced pretty soon after. I know some people don't like the sound of that. It's like, oh man, they'll just give us a complete game. There will be a complete game, but they're also going to announce the intent to continue to give us content for years to come. Because I don't think it's realistic to expect a roster that's 96 tracks, like how Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is now, right? But I do think at the very least they're going to start off with 32, and I wouldn't be surprised if they start off with 48.
Yeah.
And then
I think 48 is a good number.
Continue to expand on that roster for a couple of years. And maybe they don't even come out the same rate as Booster Course Pass, right? They're a little bit slower because these aren't just like, repurposed tracks enhanced from Tour. Like they're brand new tracks that have more love and care and attention.
Yeah. I don't think you can, because the Booster Course Pass is like the courses from Tour don't look quite as good as the ones that are made for
They
Mario
don't.
Kart 8, but
No.
it's not like they're so vastly worse where you're like, this looks like garbage or completely different.
No,
This doesn't
I
even
don't
look
think about
anything
it
like
when I'm
Mario Kart
playing
8.
them, right?
Right,
When I play the booster course tracks, I play just the booster course tracks.
right.
But when I go back, if you do it 5 Grand Prix, it's you play those tracks at a time, right? But
Yeah.
when you switch between them, it's kind of jarring because
I
like
imagine
the base game tracks have like a lot more like detail. Like they're
yeah, there's a
trying
lot
to
more
be a
stuff
little bit
going
more
on.
realistic. Yeah.
I'd imagine Mario Kart 10 is going to look vastly better than Mario Kart 8. So, like, them doing something similar to that just wouldn't work nearly as well. Like, they're
Mhm.
going to have to put a lot more effort into the DLC courses. And I mean, the first DLC packs that came out for Mario Kart 8 and the Wii U look fantastic. I'd argue a lot of them look better than the base Mario Kart
Yeah,
8
they're.
tracks.
I mean, they're
So,
at least
yeah.
par for the course. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
The
there's
thing
some
about
of them are
Booster
my
Course Pass
favorite
is that
looking ones, like the Animal Crossing track. Whew.
this wasn't made by the full-on Mario Kart team, right? This is
Right.
adapted from the tour tracks, and there were some good-looking tracks. Like I think a lot of tracks are pretty, but
Yeah, I think it's all passable
yeah,
stuff. Like, yeah, it's all good enough.
yeah. Just looking at the chat here. The real Jason, imagine Nintendo games to the PC market. I mean, people would eat it up,
Bro,
if
I'd
they
be
ever came, but
so hyped.
yeah. But
I'd
now
buy
it's
all
just
my games on PC from Nintendo.
emulation and lawsuits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Connor asked me if they added Triple Deluxe with Planet Robot like a 2-pack collectathon collection, then we should have all the modern Kirby games on one console. Like that's what Ant Dude and Nintendo Land want.
That'd be nice. I mean, in that aspect, I guess you could argue that they should include Triple Deluxe. They could just release Triple
what
Deluxe
about
though at any time.
do we really have? Would we really have all the Kirby games though? I feel like there's so many Kirby games that still aren't on.
I have
On,
no idea.
I
We
mean,
have Kirby Air Ride.
we do not have Kirby Air Ride. I do not think we have the DS game Kirby Canvas Curse, which is one of my personal favorites. Like I think there's a lot of Kirby games that
Do we even
have not
have the Wii U one, the follow up to Canvas Curse? What was it called?
the clay one.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't know that
No.
one.
I think there's a lot of Kirby games that are not on Switch. So
I feel like we've just been duped by a false premise here.
I guess there is a qualifier, a modern Kirby games. So at what point do you want to define them as modern?
I feel like the Wii U was pretty modern.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but it's a spin-off because it's looks different.
It's not.
Yeah, I think there's still several Kirby games that could come, and I don't think that's their plan to get all the Kirby games on Switch. But we'll see what happens. There's still Switch will be around for a few more years, so they could port other games.
Yeah.
Demonic Brawler added me, and to be honest, what evidence is there that Nintendo made them remove the video? Maybe they did it themselves. Perhaps the whole thing is a stunt to get noticed and sell the item. Could be, right?
You talking about the Twitch 2 grip?
The Zen Grip 2. Yeah. We don't know why the video was taken down. We assume it was because they kind of went overboard.
Right.
For those that didn't see, let me show you this.
I mean, it could be a marketing stunt, but it's not one that I think is pulled a lot.
So there was a video, right? And the thing is, like, this was advertising their console. Like, honestly, I don't think you make a video to take it down.
Yeah, because it gives a little bit of buzz at the moment, but then people will forget about it when they don't see it more often. Like, you still need to continue to advertise it to keep it in people's heads. Otherwise, they're just going to forget.
I mean, in my opinion...
Like, this isn't going to be a big deal once the Switch is announced and people are actually looking to pre-order this.
Yeah. I think this was... I'm inclined to believe it was the Ninjas, but you're right in saying we don't know, which is why I don't say it's officially confirmed that Nintendo had them take it down, right? I suggested it's a possibility. But
You never know.
what's interesting is it even shows like the 2 buttons that we've seen from the prototype leaks. Like, here's another version of the image. Like, you can see the buttons more clearly here. Like, there's 2 buttons, not just one. Yeah, I think that they were asked to take it down, but
I think that's the
we
most
don't.
likely scenario.
Yeah, and that does not mean that what they showed is the final version of the Switch 2. I don't think it is. I mean, if you look at
Probably
their
isn't.
website, it says expected design. Design will be tuned to final specifications. This is the expected design, right? They don't have the full-on model, and for what they showed, it looked like pretty much just like what we've seen from the prototype. I think they probably just took the imagery from the prototype. And so we're clear, the speculation behind the CAD renders that have been going around is that those images are what accessory makers have used to create accessories. So if they're making a video that shows the console in there, they're that's based off what they've been sent, not necessarily the final Switch 2.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably don't have a Switch 2.
Yeah.
Like an actual one.
No, I don't think so.
It's very unlikely they have a dev kit just because they make an accessory.
Ronnie Fazio asks me, hey, did you hear that Ubisoft is phasing out the physical copy of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown for a code in a box? The physical copy is $14.99 at Best Buy, and the deal ends in 2 hours. Gotta run. It's actually a pretty cheap price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I cared that much about physical media, I would honestly go get it right now.
Yeah.
So I have heard it's good, and I want to support unique Ubisoft stuff. Like, that's a game I've been wanting to play.
Yeah. MJ asks, why do you sound so nervous? Maybe ADHD, or you're not correct.
We're scared of what Nintendo might do.
Although there may have been moments of nervousness, they happen for like quick 1-second flashes, right? Nah, we're good. Captain Doge says, what's up, Andres? What's up, Captain Doge? How you doing? Link Exists asks me, after 2 years, if someone's not buying it at full price, you're only deterring them from buying it ever. I've had to buy a large majority of my first price Switch games secondhand, too expensive. Well, to your point, I haven't bought the Yoshi game. I've wanted to for a couple years, but I don't feel like spending $60 on it. So, yeah. Anyways, I know like today was more like just Q&A. We didn't really do everything topic by topic. I feel like we kind of basically covered everything. We talked about the Switch 2 reveal timing. We talked about the Fire Emblem Kirby rumors. We talked about the Metroid stuff at Game Awards or other Game Award possibilities. We talked about the Zen Grip 2 a decent amount. I guess the only thing we didn't talk about was the Mario and Luigi thing.
Oh, yes.
And it's not... apparently not too many people even cared about this, but during the Ask Developer interview, it's brought up how they weren't even sure they were going to make another Mario and Luigi game. They had trouble finding the right team to put together Mario and Luigi. And the team they found is the team behind Octopath Traveler, right? And they also talk about the struggles they have during development, and they had issues. They had issues finding the right art direction and coming to a middle ground on what everyone wanted for this project. It wasn't easy. And so they eventually kind of figured it out. I think they did a great job in terms of the art style. Like if there's anything that Mario and Luigi did masterfully, it is the art style. But it took a lot of work. It was not easy, and it impacted development. This is described in the Ask Developer interview. And so the reason why this is a little concerning, though, is because if they were to have a second stab at this, now that they have an established, like engine and art style, the next time they develop under Mario and Luigi, they're not going to have this learning curve, right? They're going to know. And so
Right.
I actually think the next Mario and Luigi might be an even better game, especially after listening to some feedback, right? Fan feedback.
Yeah.
And not that this the brothership is bad, but it isn't considered the best one either, right? It's just considered like a solid one with some issues.
Yeah, I
So
haven't gotten to play it, but I've heard a
it's a
few
good
things.
game. It's just I think they need to kind of speed up dialogue and kind of pick up the pace quicker. But otherwise, it's a good game. And there's frame
It's,
rate issues, but
yeah, I
um,
have a weird frame rate cap at like 31 FPS for some reason, which just makes the frame times all broken constantly. So the game looks like it's juddering. I don't
yeah,
understand why they did that.
they made decisions.
I'd like to ask the developers that question.
Submit it. Um, but the other issue is that Nintendo was selective about the team that they brought in to do this, and there was a lot of
Right.
legwork to get this game going. Um, but Sony is looking to acquire Kadokawa, the parent company, for a variety of companies, including Acquire, the
Right.
developer for Mario and Luigi Brothership. And so if that happens, does that mean they can no longer work on Mario and Luigi Brothership? Maybe. Not
Potentially.
necessarily, but maybe. And if that happens, then who develops the next game? And we're not sure. It may be hard for Nintendo to
Yeah.
find. They can do it, but based off the interview, they weren't sure. It took them some time to find the right fit, and then they struggled with that fit to get it right. And now we are even hearing that Brothership hasn't even seen the best of sales, at least to start in certain regions. So there's not a lot going well for another Mario and Luigi game if Sony acquire through buying Kadokawa entirely. But that doesn't mean they will. They may need to buy everything, and they may not have the resources to do so, from what some people have argued. So I wouldn't doom and gloom, but it's just kind of a talking point, and we'll see what
Right.
happens. Yeah, and there could be some stipulations that where certain partners, certain companies can still work with other companies. Like we don't know what's going to happen, and maybe nothing's going to happen. So we'll see. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's the situation regarding Mario and Luigi. I think it's a good game. I hope there's more. So fingers crossed. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't think there's really anything else that oh well, actually there is another thing. I'll probably focus more on this in a video, but let me point this out to you, Brandon. I'll just read this post. This is the Metroid Prime 3 developer. So
Okay.
there's this post here. I have never liked working with publishers or anything, but this is a whole other level of micromanagement. Like, no way. In my opinion, if you're not directly working on the game, go away. You can give feedback and guidance, but I don't think you should be telling the devs what to do. You don't have all the proper context or framing to actually be giving these critiques, and I think it's completely not how things should be made. Not to say that Metroid didn't turn out great, but it didn't turn out great because some shoulder pad was shifted slightly. I think that's kind of an unhealthy relationship. So this is just an excerpt from an interview from an ex-Metroid Prime 3 developer who was not happy with the relationship of Nintendo and apparently, in their words, micromanaging.
Right.
And so I haven't had the opportunity to take a deeper look into this, right? But just from like this excerpt here, they mention having the shoulder pad being shifted slightly. I posted about this on Twitter.
Right.
I
Saw that.
actually think shoulder pad placement, and proportions matter a great deal when it comes to Samus, because if it's slightly off, it's very jarring. I mean, there are times like I've seen like certain like prototype versions of Samus on the shoulder pads, and it just looks horrendous. So I think it does matter. Also, Retro Studios is a part of Nintendo, right? So, but
Right.
they're the original people who put Metroid together. Like, they have a certain image of how Samus should be. They're protective of the character.
Right.
So I think more context is needed here,
For
but
sure.
uh, I I wouldn't be so quick to say that Nintendo coming in and saying, "Hey, these things got to change because this is how Samus should be." I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think
No,
it depends.
it does depend. I can see it being a bad thing though. I mean, we've heard Nintendo coming into developers in the past, especially for like Mario games, and being like, yeah, unique characters, cool. No. That's not what. No, we don't want any of this. You can go back to the drawing board, make this more basic, add some toads in there, get rid of this unique crap. We don't want none of that.
Right. I
And
mean,
there
it
is
even
kind
goes
of a
back to the brothership
Nintendo.
interview I just talked about, right? Like, if you read that interview, they talk about how like they had certain expectations for how Mario and Luigi should look, and this is part
Right.
of the struggle. But if you read the interview, at least in the interview, right, the 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 people from Acquire aren't saying it in a bad way. They're saying, "Oh, this is a really good learning experience," and finding the happy
Mm,
balance between with what they wanted to do and with what
right.
Nintendo was okay with for Mario and Luigi.
Yeah, and you don't want things to
So
be like completely weird. Like I wouldn't want Mario and Luigi to not look like Mario and Luigi necessarily. But I also don't
right,
like this push from Nintendo to be like this almost like Disney like bare bones like corporate face. Like even in the things like Mario's got a lot better over the years. But even if you look at like what was the newest one? Origami King, there's still a lot of just toads and stuff and like basic stuff. There's a little bit more, but it's nothing like it used to be in Mario
yeah. I
RPGs.
mean, at least they released Thousand Year Door remake, right?
Yeah,
So
that's good.
and
But
I
then
think
you
it's
have like
technically included a couple new characters too, which is
yeah,
interesting.
but then you got like Mario parties, like Mario Party Jamboree. Like it brings back these stages from like Mario Party 1 and 2 and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but if you go back and play Mario Party 1 and 2, like you're dressed up as a cowboy in the cowboy part. Like you there's a lot more going on with like Mario's design and what they're allowed to do with that. And nowadays it's just like if they don't look exactly like normal Mario, oh, there's a problem. Mario would like unless the only time they've done this recently that isn't it would be like Odyssey, I would say, is a great example of them just being like, yeah, Mario could do all kinds of stuff. You could transform into weird stuff and wear all these costumes and stuff. But there's also a lot of Mario games where they're like Mario can only look at like a basic Mario, and that's all you're allowed. And I don't like that. So there's a balance. There's a happy middle ground, I think.
Yeah. I agree. I think there's a happy middle ground, but I mean, looking at Brothership specifically, because that's the most recent example, right, where Nintendo's working with an outside developer. And by the way, Retro Studios is not an outside developer, right? They are wholly owned by
Right.
Nintendo, but there are different parts of the Nintendo. Acquire is an actual outside developer, and there was tribulation, right?
Mm.
Acquire wanted to go with a more gritty Mario and Luigi look. They showed some of the art. I mean, I can actually share it with some of you guys, some of you guys, whoever's watching. So let me pull it up real quick.
Gritty Mario and Luigi is a weird choice, though.
Well, that sometimes Nintendo does need to step in, right? Like there needs
Yeah,
to be
I
there.
agree with that one.
It them being a part of the process is important,
Yes, I agree with
but
that.
it is also I don't want, again, I haven't read the whole interview, I haven't listened to it, so I don't want to like take it totally out of context, right, and like jump the gun here. But all I'm saying is that I think that there is too far. I agree, but there are certain things that you got to be careful with.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
Nintendo's protective of their IP. That is, in my opinion, a lot. It's a source for a lot of conflict with people when it comes to Nintendo, but also it's a big part of what makes Nintendo special. Their characters, how we see them, how they are portrayed, is really important. Um, I mean, you look at what they're doing with the movies and Universal parks. They have a vision, right? You
Right.
mentioned Disney, like there's good and bad that comes with that. But anyways, this is some of the art that was shown on the S developer interview of like a gritty Mario, and I don't like how this looks.
I wouldn't say that looks gritty.
Well, I mean, he's scuffed up, right? and he's got like torn clothes. I
Oh,
actually
see.
do like this one a little bit more. Like you
I
can
do
see their
like
clothes
that.
are they look like they've been through battle.
I think that would have
I
been
like how this
cool.
one looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would also argue this is not even it's not even too far off from how they look in Brothership. But I
No.
haven't beaten Brothership, but I don't see them having look. They don't look like they've taken any damage, and I'm actually would probably be okay with seeing some damage. But
Yeah.
anyways, I'm not going to complain about the Brothership art style. I think the Brothership art style is the
No, I
best part of
like
the
it.
game, and that had to do with Acquire and Nintendo working on it together for a while, and they found the
Right.
balance that they were both happy with, and it's something that's
Yeah.
I would say it's pretty unique. So,
I
yeah,
think Nintendo coming and helping out devs has led to a lot of good things. I mean, we talked about it multiple times, but Metroid Dread, the developer behind that, like, they were not making games to that caliber before they made Samus Returns and Metroid Dread, and now they are, and that's largely due to Nintendo's oversight. But I also agree that developers should be allowed to seek their own vision and not just be like held in a box all the time and just be like, oh, this isn't traditionally what we expect from Mario, therefore it's not allowed. Like, I think having unique, crazy, new concepts and seeing Mario in a new way we've never seen it before is exciting. Like, that's what video games are, and that's a large part of what video games are about. At least for me. So I don't I think, yeah, oversight is good, but I also think you should let the developers try new things and take the brand in ways that it hasn't been taken before.
yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, right? You got to give them room to bring in their own flair,
Yeah,
but also you have an image of your characters, and you got to protect that.
yeah. You don't want Mario running around with a gun. That would
Well,
not be it.
Mario and
Well,
Rabbids. Mario's
I
got a
mean, like a
gun.
real gun. That's
But I
that's
mean,
not the same
the
thing.
point is though, like that's Nintendo working with a third party company, and they gave Mario a gun. Like
It's got a
Nintendo is
blaster.
willing to be a little flexible,
I wouldn't
with
even call
certain
it a
visions.
gun blaster, but yeah, it shoots.
It shoots. You hold it in your hands and it shoots. It's a gun. Maybe it's not a realistic looking gun, but it's a gun. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, you look at Smash Brothers. Like Smash Brothers is a great looking Mario, right?
Yeah,
Especially in Brawl. And I think the thing about Metroid Prime 3, let's remind ourselves that game came out in 2007. That was a different Nintendo back then.
right.
So I think that's something else should be taken into consideration.
That was in the
Anyways,
Wii time, which was probably a bad time to be working with Nintendo if you don't
the
want
beginning of the Wii time, which
oversight.
was in development probably at the end of the GameCube era. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, any final thoughts, Brandon? I'm dying here.
Uh, not really.
Okay.
Mario
I
literally
will.
shoots fireballs. Is that a gun?
What?
That
What
weird.
shoots fireballs?
Mario
Yeah,
shoots
Mario just
fireballs in his
shoots
hand.
fireballs. No, he throws
He
fireballs. It's
throws
different.
them.
It's like throwing a baseball, kind of. Taker610, with another super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Will we see Switch 2 Pro? PS5 Pro seems lame.
I
Yeah,
don't
I don't
think
have
we
any
will.
interest in buying a PS5 Pro. I'm completely content with my PS5.
I think the PS5 Pro is cool. I will probably end up. Well, I probably won't get one, but if I had unlimited money, I would get one. I don't think the Switch 2 Pro will make sense. I mean, the Switch. I think a Switch 1 Pro would have made a lot more sense than the Switch 2 Pro will.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And they did not do that, so I don't see that happening. Just with the way technology is going, it's going to be even less viable for them to do it than it would have been this generation, and they did not do that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Is part of the reason because like the Switch is basically kind of building off Wii U tech in a way, right? So it's like using it is more powerful in the Wii U, but not substantially, right? Not a next generation's worth, right? Just it's more like a minor
I wouldn't.
improvement.
I wouldn't say that the Switch 2 is built off the Wii U in any
No, the
way.
Switch. The
Or this? No,
Switch.
yeah, the Switch. No, I would not say that the Switch is built
Not
off of
okay.
the Wii
Let me
U
rephrase.
in
It's
any
not. It's
architectural
not
way.
using the same technology. I understand. Like they use completely different like chipset partners. Like I understand that, right? But what I'm getting at is in terms of just like literal like horsepower, what they're able to produce. The Switch is only a little bit more powerful than the Wii U. It's not a full generation leap.
No,
It's more
it's not.
like the GameCube to the Wii jump, is what I'm saying. Um, and
Yeah,
so the abilities of the Switch became more dated more quick because they was already kind of dated to begin with. Um, the Switch 2, on the other hand, while you can still argue it'll be somewhat dated, it's still going to be this massive generational leap for Nintendo in comparison to the Switch. You understand what I'm
Mm.
saying now? And so I'm simply
You're right.
arguing that like the people have been kind of like getting Wii U level graphics from Nintendo since 2012, right?
Yeah,
Even on Switch. But once Switch 2 comes out next year, it ain't gonna be that. So I think that exhaustion is not gonna be as significant. And another thing some people like to argue is that, well, but developers are gonna want more out of their hardware, and that is true to an extent. But even
mm.
with that argument in mind, the Switch has been going strong as is, despite that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
so I don't think they really need to do a Switch 2 Pro.
no, and I think the scalability of graphics is in a better place than it has been in a long time. Um, Especially with the added things of like ray tracing being such a big push. Uh, the fallbacks are just so much uh, easier to run. Like ray tracing is so expensive. Literally, just turning off ray tracing and going to a different form of lighting instantly makes it so much more viable and like easy to run. There's a lot of things like that where it's like you just don't use the latest and greatest feature and it will be a lot easier to run. I just don't think they'll need to do it, and also like tech isn't scaling down as quickly as it has been. Things are getting slower. To get more power, you typically need a bigger, hotter chip nowadays. It's not like it used to be, where like every couple of years there was just a chip that was twice as fast and twice as efficient, like every 2 years. Like that's just not the case. If you
Yeah.
know about Moore's law, that is dead. It's done at this point. Unless we find a new way to compute things, Moore's law just isn't going to work anymore. So the idea that like a switch to like actual silicon, like a chip existing, that would be a huge like pro upgrade over the Switch 2 isn't going to be the case. Like even the PS5 Pro is not that much more powerful than the PS5. It's about like 30% more powerful, which is way less significant than
But it has
the
certain bells and whistles.
yeah, like the Xbox One X was several times more powerful than the Xbox One. Like that was 1.3 terabyte or teraflops to 6
Yeah, it was
teraflops.
almost like a generational leap, basically.
It was basically a half generation leap. You can't do that anymore. And the PS5 Pro gets away with this because it adds like machine learning, which enables it to do a DLSS like feature set to the PS5, you know, which doesn't have that.
Right, but
So
even
you,
then, people feel like it's not enough of a difference.
yeah. So there's just not. I don't think it makes way less sense than it did this generation, and they didn't even do it this generation. So I don't
Right.
see it happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think there'll be revisions, right? There's probably going to be a
Oh
Switch
yeah,
2 Lite. There'll probably be a Switch 2 OLED.
probably a
And maybe
better
that's it.
battery life version,
Maybe
just like
that.
we got
Yeah.
this generation. I'm 100% sure. In like 2-3 years after Switch 2 launches, it will like have way better battery life.
Yeah. There'll be revisions, but
Yeah.
and maybe there will be a revision that's like slightly more powerful, but that won't even be like the main thing.
I imagine it
Um,
will be like the current Switch, where they came out with a better version. It could have been more powerful if they clocked it up. They just didn't. So if you go in and overclock it yourself, you get better performance. But
But I,
just out
I,
of the
I guess
box,
the
it's not what
one thing you
Nintendo
could
does.
argue is that maybe, down the road they might want to have a Switch 2. It's like, hey, this does ray tracing like better. Like maybe. But I,
Maybe.
I I'm leaning towards
Yeah.
no.
I mean, technically, the Switch
Yeah.
Pro does exist. It's called the better battery life version and the OLED version. Like,
Yeah.
if they had clocked those chips higher, you could have had a 60 FPS
Right.
version of Tears of the Kingdom running on those consoles. Like, those consoles are capable of much, much more than they're allowed to do. They just don't. Nintendo doesn't let you do that.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
literally, you can run Tears of the Kingdom at almost a completely locked 60 FPS if you overclock a Switch OLED.
That's pretty crazy.
And the
I didn't
game
know
has
that.
frame rate drops at 30 FPS on the Switch currently.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's Breath of the Wild. I'm just kidding.
Actually, it's the
Anyway,
sequel.
yeah, you're right. But I'm delirious and tired, so I'm gonna end the stream. Um, Thank you everyone for watching. It's been fun. Will I stream the Game Awards? I don't know. Stay tuned. Find out next time on Andres Restart and Brandon Ball Z. So, well, you'll see a notification of me going live if I'm going live. I'm not
I'm
sure what
sure
I'm gonna
you'll
do.
probably say something beforehand on Twitter or a
Well,
community
I'll
note.
make an announcement, but I'm not sure right now because even if there are going to be Nintendo announcements, it's going to be a long presentation. That's a lot of time that I could be doing something else. I'm not going to enjoy watching the entire show. I just simply
No.
will not. I will not. I know I won't. I know. Listen. Even if you tell me, even if Doug Bowser hits me up, it's like, yo, bro. Yeah, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, it's going to have a 3-minute trailer. Not a 30-second trailer, a 3-minute trailer. And we're going to tease the Switch 2. And you're going to see Metroid Prime 2 and 3. And you're going to see Zombie Chronicles X. And you're going to see a Donkey Kong Country Returns trailer. But all this is spread out over the course of 4.5 hours. I
Is the show
might
that
fall
long
asleep
now?
in between. So,
Oh my gosh. Is it really that long now? I thought it was like 2 or 3 hours.
all right, okay. Admittedly, if it was everything I just said, then I probably would. But we all know that's not going to happen, right? Like it might be one or two of those things.
Yeah, maybe.
And so that there's just no way that I'm going to enjoy watching the entire presentation because I don't care that much about the actual awards themselves. That's me being frank. Like there aren't too many Nintendo games up for awards. My favorite game of the year probably is not going to win anything. Wait, I mean, I guess you could argue it's Elden Ring, but I don't want Elden Ring to win. It won last year. I don't think they should be celebrating the DLC in the way they're doing it. I actually would like to see Astrobot win something, but there are other games. Anyways, point is, we'll see. We'll see what I do, but I'll definitely cover the Nintendo news when it comes. So that'll happen. Anyways, I'm calling it a night. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys.